Welcome to Velvet Games. Today we're going to be talking about your favorite format in Magic the Gathering, Commander, and how to build your deck. I'm Jason.
And I'm Zach.
And this is Velvet Games. So let's talk about commanders, right? That's the first part of building any deck is choosing one. I like the idea of going out and branching out to be able to get out of your comfort zone, choose deck types that you don't usually play, Like if you play a lot of tokens, maybe try some mill. If you play mill, try some aggro. Get out of there. Try something new. Don't min-max. We don't need it. Just have fun. It's a commander format. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get that there is a competitive angle, and if you're doing that, then sure, you want to build a competitive deck. But this game, to me at least, is primarily fun. It's a social experience. Experience. I like to just sit down with buddies, have fun, and for that reason, you should have fun decks. Don't get me wrong. Every now and again, you got to pull out the big boy deck.
Right.
But you should have something that is yours, something that is personal, something that is fun, something that is maybe a little more fluffy, in terms of lore and stuff like that, but not necessarily the best.
Even with the big boy deck, right? Building something that works for you. Something that when somebody goes to a comic book shop, they would see, oh, Jason's bringing his Zada deck. That,
right.
You have your name attached to that kind of build.
Right.
Where if you're just playing Adamar or what other a Layla, what other commanders, the big names.
Oh goodness.
Stuff like that where you just
build a Kalia deck or something.
Yeah, a Kalia,
yeah.
Where you're just I'm showing up with my $1,000 commander deck, time to win, and just it's not fun. That's what we're here. We're having a good time, build decks that we can have. We can also play. We want them to be fluid,
right,
to be able to play through, but we're not just showing up with here's the best deck in Commander right now.
Right.
But yeah, your commander should be the main point of the deck, and it's kind of what you build around, but you don't want to crutch on it. You don't want to just, every time I cast my commander, I win the game, or I need my commander to play the deck.
Yeah.
You want to make the most of it for sure.
I would say with that, you want to be careful because it's don't get me wrong, you build a commander deck around the commander because that's obviously the format.
Right.
But you do also want to make it to where like you said, he's not the crutch. If you're playing a Krenko deck, for example, right? The idea of a Krenko deck is to get Krenko out and just start token generating.
Right.
But that leaves you kind of vulnerable because then what happens if you don't have Krenko, right? But that's where deck building comes in. You create workarounds.
Right.
Okay, I know Krenko is going to be a target. Let's go ahead and put on some protections for him. Let's run some stuff to make sure that if somebody tries to counter him, I can counter that right back.
Yeah, definitely understand that. You want to build a well-rounded deck for sure. But let's talk about the numbers. But before we do that, stay tuned to the end of the video because today we're going to be giving you the information to be able to win these dice. So stay tuned to the end. So the numbers, right? And just a disclaimer for anybody watching, these aren't a copy and paste. Not every deck needs the same amount of numbers of lands and sorceries. It all depends on what you're building. This is a baseline to kind of remember when you're building that deck. So when it gets to lands, I like to think a 33 minimum, a 40 maximum. Again, depends on what you're building, depends on how many colors, all that nonsense that goes into it. Creatures, I like to stick around 30, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depends. Spells, instant sorceries, 10 to 15. About there. Enchantments / artifacts, the utility stuff, maybe about 6 to 15. Get a good handful there. Planeswalkers, I think low-end Planeswalkers, 3, 4, maybe a little bit. Other decks, there's the Super Friends decks, right?
Yeah.
That you're putting in every Planeswalker you see, anything you can put in there. Mana rocks, I like 5 to 10, a good amount, that you have a little bit to kind of keep you going, get stuff going faster too. Removal and counter spells, stuff like that, about 10 to 15. You don't want a whole lot, but you don't want none. You want to be able to get rid of their problems. And then deck specific cards, you want about 20 to 35. I think that's a good round number in my opinion of you want that 20 to 35 of this is what my deck does. So you have about a fifth of a chance. Every 5 cards you should be able to get something that does what you want it to do for your deck. Ramps, you want ramp cards like artifacts, lands, stuff that can get you more mana to be able to play the game. But let's talk about these numbers a little bit, Zach.
Well, I mean, overall, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I think it's fine to have a baseline and to kind of come into it with a, hey, here's kind of what I start at, and then I just tune it to whatever the deck I'm building. But I mean, personally, I don't really do, like, shall we say, a base sort of, like, hey, these are the numbers that I'm going to work with, and then build off of that. What I tend to do is, like, go on to something like EDHREC and look at, kind of what the average deck distribution is for that type that I'm building, right? Just to kind of see, like, for that deck type, for that sort of archetype, how, what do they run? Like, so for, like, an artifact-heavy sort of deck with this commander specifically, most people run, like, 35 artifacts. So it's like, okay, cool. So I want to run in that ballpark.
Yeah.
I don't want to follow it too strictly because, again, it's an average and, you want to have a little fun and build it your own way. But it does give you a nice little, like, starting point to see, like, okay, especially if you're a beginner, okay, this is what other people do with this deck. Okay, that gives me an idea of what I want to kind of aim for.
For sure, it gives you a good idea, and that's what I think that's what we want to kind of get to with, like, our viewers and everything is, like, take the ideas, but make them your own, Yeah,
100%. 100%.
And like you said, with, like, EDHREC, going on there or any other website, I know there's tons, MTG Goldfish and like tons of other websites that you can check out and get an idea for your own commander decks, but making it your own commander deck, and that's I think with the baseline similar to this, like 33 lands, I'm not going anything less than that. I like for a monocolored green deck, right? 33 lands, I feel like I'm gonna get what I need. I'm gonna be able to play the deck pretty well, but if I go any less, I'm not gonna get the mana I need. If I go more, I'm just gonna get flooded. But like a 4-color deck, I can't do 33 lands.
Oh yeah, no, you have to have enough of, like, each color, otherwise you're gonna be sitting there with your your thumbs, all of your friends that get to play.
Exactly, like, and it depends on like we said, it depends on the deck. It's a lot of stuff comes to, like, the totality of the circumstances.
And like you say, with, like, the ramp artifacts, land ramp, low cost, like mana dorks, for example, like I feel like sometimes you can even take out a land, like, when you're throwing those in. You know, like, it's like, okay, I can sacrifice a couple lands because this deck has a lot of mana dorks.
Right.
Like, for example, with my Maelstrom Wanderer deck, like, that deck is all about getting, like, just ramp. Like, so getting cards that get me more lands, but then on top of that, like, I have several mana dorks, I have several mana rocks, because, like, I know how much my high cost commander getting out quick means to me. It means to that deck. So, I sacrifice a bit of the lands for alternative.
Yeah, 100%.
forms.
Like, I built a Raga. Yeah, you could roast me in the comments if you want. But I built that deck where it was all little mana dorks, and I didn't really rely on the land so much. Like, I think I had, like, 33 in a 2-color land, 32, something like that. But I had so many mana dorks that I was able to do anything I wanted to do with ease. Yeah. And continue to, like, it. Like I said, it depends on the deck build.
Yeah.
But, like, I know lands are, like, controversial. Like, everybody wants to debate, well, every deck needs 36 lands. Right. I need 34 in my 4-color deck, or else I don't hit my mana ramp right. Like, I don't know.
And to be fair, for your deck, that might be the way that it works. I mean, it might be the sort of situation where, for your deck and the way that you're building it and the way that you want to play it, you need that specific thing. By all means, go for that.
Let's talk about, like, the creatures aspect, right? Mm-hmm. When we get into, like, when you build a deck, are you looking for, like, a certain percentage? Let's talk about just a basic, Maelstrom Wanderer, right?
Okay.
You're looking for Cascade stuff. You're looking for creatures that can do that, obviously. But, like, and for those that don't know Maelstrom Wanderer, look it up. You get to Cascade. You get to play your deck, like, 3 times over if you build it right. It's a lot of fun. We'll probably feature that on the channel soon. But when you're building that, like, you want creatures that can do what you need them to do.
Oh, 100%.
But you also need creatures that can, stand up. That you don't need just Cascade. You're not looking for every Cascade creature and throwing it in there. But you're looking for a good build. So what are you looking for in that aspect?
Well, I mean, I think it's a very depends on the situation sort of thing. So for some decks, you're gonna want a lot of creatures. Like if it's a deck where you are really trying to beat somebody down with creatures, you're gonna want creatures.
Yeah.
But like with a deck that's more of like a spell slinger sort of, I want to cast a bunch of instants and sorceries and stuff like that. then it becomes a bit more tricky because then at that point I feel like you want creatures, but you want utility creatures.
Right.
You don't want like just a 4/4 that comes in with lifelink.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to help me get out, all my instants and sorceries. I would rather have a Jace's Archivist,
right,
or a something that like reduces the cost.
Yeah, like Goblin and Electromancer,
right,
stuff like that.
Or some, yeah.
We'll get into more specifics when it comes to deck builds as we get a little bit into this episode. But as a general idea, is there a number that you look for when it comes to creatures so you have enough to kind of cover yourself, or you just you base it completely off of the deck build?
Completely off the deck build.
Yeah. Me personally, I try and stick around 20 to 30. So that way I feel like I need a creature on the board because we all have one creature on the side as a commander game. We're all ready for that commander damage. I want to be able to protect from that commander damage and not always have to protect with my commander. So I always try and keep a little little creatures coming in, even if they are little mana dorks, like putting a little bit of them into the deck just so they can block. Yeah. That's personally mine. But we can move on to like spells. So instant sorceries. Again, deck specific. Like if I'm building a Vadric deck, I want to put everything. Right? I have more spells in it. I have like 40 counter spells in my Vadric deck where I'm just ready to say no. But at the same time, when it comes to this baseline, if you're building like, I don't know, let's say like a Zexara deck. You have a good amount of Hydras, but you're not just filling the deck with Hydras. You need X spells, right?
Right.
So you want a little bit of both. I think about 10 to 15 is a solid number.
Yeah, and I would say like you could even go a little less than that depending on how many X spell creatures you're playing.
Yeah.
In that instance. I think overall, you want to run you don't want to run too many instants and sorceries,
right?
Because like you do want creatures, you do want to have a decent board state. Even with the Spellslinger deck, like that's a very that's a big concern. You still want to have the creatures. You don't want to go too heavy into instants and sorceries.
Right. Definitely.
And with artifacts and mana rocks, you definitely want to have quite a bit of that to help you get along with your mana and stuff like that. But yeah, I think overall, again, I still think it's very dependent on the deck type. But yeah, I do think like I would honestly say even like no more than 10 unless you're doing something specifically Spellslinger related. Okay. But make them very focused.
So no more than 10 instants and sorceries?
Yeah, make them very hyper focused towards what you're doing. Like
I don't know, that seems a little low to me, man. Like okay, you got ramp, right? You're throwing in your rampant growth, your nature's lore, whatever it may be, right? And then you need some like removal. And there's people out there that, you don't need removal, you play your own game. Listen, when you have to go against a 1600 Hamelback Goliath, you need removal, all right? I don't care who you are.
Or, you're playing you're playing a Krenko deck and somebody has an Elesh Norn on the field.
Exactly.
It's like, well, now what are you going to do, bud?
Exactly. You need removal. So, okay, let's say you get about 5 ramp spells. Not a whole lot, but decent. About 5 removal spells. Again, not a whole lot. You're already at 10 right there.
True.
Now you still need stuff that flows into your deck.
But I think that also kind of depends on like how much you're running, like artifact ramp or creature ramp.
Okay.
Because if it's kind of like how I said with like when you can take out lands. It is risky, but you can take out lands for introducing other ramp types. You can also take out, like, say instants and sorcery like ramp spells if you have other means of ramping.
Sure.
Like if you have, for example, like a veteran explorer on the field, or you have like a Solemn Smoke Room.
Yeah.
Or something like that, where it's like you're getting land drops from just having creatures ETB or die.
Right.
Like at that point, that's like, all right, cool. Like I don't have to run as much in the instant sorceries department.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's just the baseline. Like you want to be able to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I think, me personally, I usually have a lot more instant sorceries in my creature decks than most people. But I want to be able to be ready for anything. Like if I'm running, what's the creature deck that I run? Like Targnar, right? Green Gruul, like you're just trying to keep up and you're trying to hit fast. But I run a lot of creatures, but I also run a good amount of instant sorceries because I'm trying to pump Targnar up. I'm trying to keep everybody else from blocking. I'm trying to do all this other stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's not much. I think I have like 12 in there. Not a whole lot, but still enough to kind of play the game and keep up with everybody.
Man, get yourself where you need to go.
Now here's a little controversy, right? I don't think Soul Ring needs to go in every deck. right? And I've heard other creators say this and stuff like that, like just put a Soul Ring in. It's the number 1 mana rock. I get it, right? Mm-hmm. It's a 1-drop for 2 mana. On turn 1, you're ready to go. But, like, if you're running enough ramp and you have a green heavy deck, you don't need a Soul Ring. In the Raga Draga deck, I had creatures that are Soul Rings. You don't need them. Like, that's just, I know it's controversial again. You can see me in the comments, whatever. But that's just, I think we don't need it.
They're about to beat you up in the quote retweets.
Yeah, definitely in the quote retweets. I'll see you there, guys. But yeah, like, what do you think about that aspect when it comes to like staple cards? Do you think they need to go in every single deck? Or what?
I mean, I definitely think there are some cards that are good, and I would say that 9 times out of 10 they're good auto includes. Like 9 times out of 10, a Soul Ring's great.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, a Command Tower or a Reliquary Tower or like, anything like that is just like it's great. Like there are definitely cards like Counterspell.
Sure.
In a blue deck or stuff along that lines.
Yeah.
But the thing is that again, it kind of all depends on how you want to build a deck and on how you want to play it. Sometimes it's not great to have a something like a Command Tower. You're doing like a mono green deck, you're not going to want a Command Tower.
Right.
Just play a forest. There are so many cards that run off of counting how many forests you have. Like creating a creature and like an XX creature for how many forests you have, or this creature gets +X for how many forests you have. Like that, running that Command Tower actually hinders you.
Yeah.
It's like it's an auto include in virtually every like dual color or
for sure
tricolor deck.
Yeah, if I'm running a Zeator deck, I'm not going to run it without a Command Tower.
Right.
I did embarrass myself the other day playing my Urza deck that I just built. I didn't include a single basic planes, and I didn't include a Command Tower. So I had to literally leave I lost the game with and I had 12 constructs. I was ready to win. I lost the game off of a board wipe. It was ridiculous. We can talk about it later. But I was looking for that specific land because somebody put what's that green card that lets you search? Everybody else gets a search as well. Man, it's blinking. It lets
Tap
you
with
search.
Discovery.
That's what I was meaning. That one. Yeah.
That card. Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. Collective Voyage, Temple Discovery, where you're getting everybody else was playing. They were getting lands. They were getting these basic. I was the only one that had to go get a basic island because I forgot my Command Tower. So it happens. Deck building, you make mistakes. You don't always include every single card you might have on your list. I just put that Urza deck together recently, and it was a lot of fun.
On that topic, 2 things. One, don't be afraid to run unoptimal cards.
Yeah.
Because your deck might actually make good use of them. There are some cards, for example, in my Arkelos deck, that they're cards that enter tapped, right? And they usually don't give you much benefit, right? They're bad cards, in most decks. But with Arkelos out, they come in untapped. So it's cool. I get whatever effect they have.
Right.
And then I can tap them for mana right away. Great cards now.
Yeah, building to the deck strength.
Exactly.
Playing something that, Belt of Giant Strength is in my Targnar deck. It makes him a 10/10, but it's also 9 mana to cast, and just it's clunky.
Yeah.
But with Targnar, you're getting a bunch of mana. You're building that ramp up pretty quickly. So you play the Belt of Giant Strength. You make him a 10/10. Then you hit him, make him a 20/20.
Yeah.
Then you're hitting him for 100/100, and you already won the game.
Yeah.
So stuff like that it may not work in every single deck. And again, these numbers aren't a copy and paste. You're not going to be able to put 33 lands in every single deck. You're not going to be able to work with just 20 instants and sorceries. You have to be able to optimize what you're working with.
Oh, 100%.
In your Maelstrom deck, cascading is a big thing, right? You want to be able to move through and get more cards. But at the same time, you're not only cascading.
No.
You're doing many different things with those cascade, with the exile triggers and yada, 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 right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because ultimately with that deck, and for example, really I think the only casted creature I have is Maelstrom Wanderer, aside from maybe one other.
Yeah.
Really, that deck in particular is just ramp hard, get Maelstrom Wanderer out as quick as you can, and then get free stuff.
Right.
And then just swing in, die, bring him back out, and get free stuff. It's just, hey, I just want to play my deck and just get through it quick as I can.
Talking about just playing your deck, let's talk about removal a little bit, right? Sure. Removing other people's problems, right? I know we talked about this a little bit, but removing other people's problems and playing your deck. Playing a deck that is based around taking everybody else out. How do you feel about, let's say, Child of Alara? A deck that literally comes in and destroys all non-land permanents. What is your thoughts on stuff like that?
Like, thoughts on...
Like, decks that are built around destroying everybody else's deck, removing everybody else's decks.
I mean, it's mean.
It is
I
mean.
see why it's a CEDH deck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it definitely works. But, I mean, I played against one, actually. There was a tournament that me, Austin, and there were 2 other people at, and I want to say the Child of Lara won, but I can't really remember that well.
I won't be surprised.
But, I mean, wipe the floor with us.
Yeah.
But, I mean... In a competitive setting, I get that.
Yeah.
In a more friendly setting,
That's what I'm asking.
You
Yeah,
know,
in a
you
friendly
want to
setting.
you want to be friendly.
Yeah.
You know, you want to. Don't get me wrong. Play the deck you want to play.
Right.
Build it how you want to build it. But also be conscious of the fact that you're playing with other people, and like you don't want to go that hard. You know, try to fit to the power level of the people around you. You know, like a deck that just comes in and just destroys everything and is just mean. I mean, sure, like, you'll win,
Yeah.
but are your friends going to want to play with you again after that?
Right. So, like,
You know.
talking about deck types, like, what do you think is the most friendly deck types to play against?
Well, the obvious answer is Hug.
Right.
You know, Hug is the most fun to play against because it's there to help you play your deck.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
a lot of the win cons for a Hug deck are usually very, like, hey, I'm just going to passively win by, like, gaining 40 life and playing Felidar Sovereign.
Right.
You know, I'm not even hurting you guys. I'm just winning.
Yeah.
You know,
Is it still a Hug deck if they win with Aether Flux Reservoir?
I mean, if they've been like helping you out for the most game and you haven't done nothing to them,
If they have 100 life, right, and they just pow, right, and they have 101 because they still have to live, but like they kill the other 2 guys just like that. Did they play a Hug deck still?
they did.
Yeah.
They did because I mean, especially if up to that point they've been helping you get your deck out. They let you play. They let you have fun. They let you, gave you that opportunity to really take advantage of that and win.
Yeah.
You know, or get as far as you can.
Remember this, people. He said it was still a Hug deck. Okay. So
It is.
I mean, hey,
I mean-
I personally think the best deck type to play against and have fun is like the cycle decks that let you like cycle your hands and like draw more, and you're just like going through your whole deck as fast as possible.
Something with anything with a Teferi's puzzle box.
Anything with Teferi's puzzle box or like Mind Moil, but like you have to play Mind Moil. It doesn't work if somebody else plays it. But yeah, Teferi's puzzle box. I enjoy windfalling. Like I know it can be toxic. There's a lot of CDH that like just windfalls you to death.
Yeah.
I get. But me personally, I love being able to say, "Oh, time for 7 new cards." Oh, this guy has 14 cards in hand. I guess I do too. You know, like stuff like that.
I mean, I think for me, it's like I don't like getting rid of good things in my hand.
Yeah.
You know, but actually, that brings me to an interesting question. What do you not like playing against?
Oof. What do I not like playing against? I gotta say, I played against this one deck the other day where they destroyed all of my lands, right? And not just at Armageddon, but targeted one by one by one by one all of my lands. And it was just it was a Boros deck that like I just hated it. Yeah. So I gotta say that's land destruction is a big no. Like I can't. I literally target that guy every time I see him now. Every time I go to the comic book shop and I see him there, I'm just like, listen, you know what has to happen.
You understand. You know what you did.
You know what you did. I can also like I kind of get like draining game decks. I could see the fun in them, but I feel like a lot of times they either stall out and they're just not fun to play against because you're just hitting them, they're gaining it back, hitting them, gaining it back, and it's just like meh, like. It just takes away. I think it takes away some fun of the commander aspect, but I could see the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for me, definitely, there's 2.
Okay.
And one, I mean, the one's kind of situational. I don't like mill.
Okay.
Right now, mind you, mill can be fun in the right circumstances. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mill has, it's not the worst.
Sure.
But like, if you're not running grave recursion,
right,
or a lot of like grave play stuff. It really does hurt.
Yeah, it can hurt, but that's I don't know.
And the people who play mill should feel really, really bad.
For those that can't tell, we're looking at our friends behind the camera.
But the other one I would say is like heavy control decks.
Yeah.
But specifically heavy control decks that just dirtle and don't do anything. I remember there was one time I was at a card shop over closer to Orlando, and my goodness, this guy, he brings out I think it was a Nezahal deck.
Oof.
And it was
Mono blue
control, like counter spells, bounce spells, like all that sort of stuff, lock spells. But the man didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like that was the deck until like eventually he drew into his win con, and it was just like, it's like, boy, I sure do love sitting here for an hour just not doing anything.
Yeah, and I can get behind those decks that like have those dirtle effects to kind of like stall you decks or like stacksy decks where you're just like, but they have to have like that win.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, I can't play anything. It's your turn. You're gonna pass the turn
and
to
then
me.
You can't play anything either.
Okay, cool. Well,
like,
it's your turn, and you're just sitting there.
I sure do love playing Magic with my friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then just like, but at least with the mill deck, right? You get to see all your cards. They're just in the graveyard.
You know what? You're right.
Like, you get to see everything. Like, I built this great deck, and now I can't do anything. But one Eldrazi, right? Ulama, Kozilek gets all your deck, gets your whole graveyard back.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, in any green deck I run, and talking about auto-include cards, any green deck I run, Gaia's Blessing.
Yeah, exactly.
Just hits the grave, cool, everything's back. We're good.
It's an easy, like, okay, cool. And if you put that with a newer card, Turn the Earth, you can't be milled out. Because, okay, Turn the Earth lets you put 3 cards back into your graveyard, into your library. Guy's Blessing says every time it's milled from the shuffle your graveyard back into your library. Yep. So you just keep doing that with Turn the Earth, and it just keeps going, so you can't get milled out.
And the beauty of that, too, is that Guy's Blessing first part says the same thing. If you cast Guy's Blessing from hand, you put 3 cards back in your library.
Exactly.
So you can then put Turn the Earth back in if you need to. I like that. That's nice little combo.
It's a little combo I put into Targnar because some of my friends mill me out, and it's not fun to go against. But anyways, talking about deck types. There's a lot of like main ones that we're going to talk about here for a little bit. Ultimately, if you guys want some more deck types that you want us to talk about, just put it in the comments. We're more than happy to talk about anything. But we're going to start with tokens, right? One of our friends loves tokens, and he's going to be here today on the show, but unfortunately, he sounds like a dead mouse, and he can't talk a whole lot. But tokens, right? There's a lot of different token commanders, a lot of different token colors. I've seen a lot of people play all kinds of different stuff. Ultimately, what you're looking for in a token deck, heavy enchantments, your creatures that make more tokens, and creatures that are pumping those tokens, and like spells that can pump everything all at once to go for that win, right? So like in your token decks, right? What are you looking to put in there? What's your like staple tokens?
Well, I would say I don't necessarily agree with heavy on enchantments.
Okay.
I would say purposeful enchantments.
Okay.
I would say like you definitely want anthems.
Yeah.
Like a Marshal's Anthem, say, or something like that. You definitely want lords. That's definitely an important aspect. Like, I mean, it really depends on, of course, the token deck, because obviously, certain colors give you access to certain different anthems. Certain cards are specific to the type of creature. So, like zombies, for example. Like, obviously, a Death Baron is his name, I believe.
Yeah, the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a Death Baron, zombies. So yeah, I mean, you definitely want purposeful creatures, purposeful enchantments. Like,
for sure.
You want things that are going to, depending on what creature type you want to angle that token deck around, you definitely want stuff that buffs those.
Yeah, and like when I say heavy on enchantments, I'm thinking like True Conviction,
right?
Stuff like
anthems,
that. That's anthems that are giving all of your little tokens, making them 4/4s that can attack, that can fly, that can double strike, lifelink, anything,
Yeah.
And putting those little like big anthems that people are going to target. People are going to target True Conviction. People are going to target Atarka's Monument.
They're not going to let you keep that doubling season.
Exact double season. Stuff like that. Yeah, double, and that's another aspect. Enchantments that are getting you more tokens. So like those little like and back in the day with Blues Clues and Standard, there is Uvenwald Mysteries, where every time you sack a clue, you make a 1/1 human soldier. I still run that in my Lannis deck.
Oh yeah,
where, like you sack a clue, you get a token. And you want those kind of enchantments that are making you more tokens. And so every time you're building those kind of token decks, I look for those anthem kind of enchantments, as well as those enchantments that kind of do that, like you said, utility with a purpose. So let's talk about the common colors, right? I think green, white, and Naya, green, red, white as token colors. But there's also blue white. There's mono white. I mean, token can be literally like anything. I've seen black blue tokens with zombies. I've seen mono blue tokens. I've seen colorless tokens decks with the artifacts. Yeah.
I was gonna say Eldrazi's.
Eldrazi's.
You could run like just Eldrazi spawns and.
Ugh, disgusting.
I mean, it might be a little hard because colors definitely help in those
for sure
in those decks, but I mean, mono red.
Mono red goblins. Yeah, I mean, like, I can't think of a color combination that can't run tokens.
Yeah, I would say one of the strongest ones, probably green white. I mean,
I think Esper tokens can be broken.
Well, think about this, right? So green white, you have doubling season, you have second harvest, you have there's another one that does exactly what doubling season does.
Anointed Procession.
Yeah. You have the one that creates makes your tokens 4/4s.
Okay.
4/4 angels. I mean, green white has
quite
a bit of support.
But if you look at blue white, you have a bunch of like making Thopters. Right, you have a bunch of those new, like, whenever you cast an instant sorcery, make a 1/1, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have the black blue white with like Alayla as the common, like, is one of the number one commanders out there. Whenever you cast an enchantment or artifact, make a 1/1 fairy. Right, and then you have like intangible virtue that gives all your tokens +1/+1 in vigilance. You get all this stuff that works with that, but you also have Anointed Procession that goes with it. You also have all those white commanders that like can be added on to make more tokens and stuff like that. But I can definitely see the argument for green, white. I think Bant is also up there too. Bant can be pretty good. Again, I can't think of a combination of colors that doesn't work for tokens. I mean,
like even with my Warriors deck, my Najila deck, 5 color,
you
can do tokens. I will say are probably one of the more versatile like archetypes, shall we say?
For sure,
because you just got to find the right commander and you're good.
Yeah, I know Austin is dying to talk about it too. Like that's his whole point of wanting to be.
Don't worry, I'm sure he'll pick a token deck. It's fine.
We'll see Austin play a token deck eventually, and we'll cry. But let's talk about some popular commanders, right? We mentioned a couple, but like there's Jetmir with the newer commander that people love. Jetmir getting 10 creatures out there and just throwing them all across the board, not worrying about anything. There's Raynar blue-white spirits that you're just making a bunch of spirits and throwing them out there. Popular one to our friend Austin, Namada. Very overlooked commander, which if you guys tune into our next episode, you might be able to see Namada play. Adrix and Nev. We didn't even talk about green-blue, though.
Ooh.
Green-blue, being able to make duplicates of stuff, like Volo, Adrix and Nev, Essex. There's a ton of different things that are like, whatever you cast this, make a copy of it.
I think it's like token copies too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a whole same thing but different avenue of tokens.
Yeah.
Where you're making copies of creatures over and over and over again.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like, or then you have like oh no, I was gonna say morph, but morph's different.
Morph is definitely different.
It's definitely different.
Don't get it confused.
Don't mind me.
But like in green blue you also have Rite of Replication.
Yep.
Like you can't do that in green white. You can do that in black blue white. I built a Kyrie deck that is mono blue that is focused on making copies of Kyrie, so you die with the die trigger from Kyrie and get those instant sorceries back from your grave, and I just windfall the heck out of people too. Like I kid you not, I've had so many people be upset that I've windfalled them 4 times in a game from that deck than anything else. And I milled them out too. Like I literally milled them. Goodness. Like that. The whole deck is milling myself, milling you, windfalling, getting those instants and sorceries in my graveyard, and playing it. But I also make a ton of tokens throughout the deck. Like I have the Thousand's Face Shadow that makes a copy of target creature whenever it comes in with ninjutsu. Different stuff that makes those copies. There's also that one from Baldur's Gate. I can never pronounce the name. Again, I'll see you in the comments. But like Irreverus Vile Duplication, where it targets a creature and makes a non-legendary token of it.
Okay.
And that's also a new thing that's been coming out.
Oh,
non-legendary tokens.
Like that mask. Oh, goodness.
Mask of Many Faces?
Actually, is that the one I'm thinking of? It's the one that gives your... that like it creates like a copy of the creature, but it's a non-legendary. It's an artifact. I think it does it at combat. I'm forgetting the name of it.
Helm of the Host.
Helm of the Host.
Helm of the Host.
There you go.
Yeah, so Good thing we did our research before.
It's a.
But yeah, like Helm of the Host, stuff like that. There's also like
Brutaclad,
Delina, Wild Mage. That's in red. There's like tons.
Oh yeah, like I said, it's so versatile. You could go on with this for a long time.
There's tons of colors. If you like tokens, stay tuned to one of our future episodes.
Figure out which type of token you like, and then just find your commander around that.
Yeah, like we said, Austin will definitely play tokens. Stick around.
100%.
You'll definitely see it. Let's move on to your favorite mill.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of like different colors in mill too. You know, like you're focusing more like that's a deck specific build. There's not a whole lot of widespread stuff that you could do in mill, right? Like you want to be focused on either getting your stuff in the graveyard or getting your opponent's stuff in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And then you also want to be focused on if your stuff lands in the graveyard, being able to use it.
But I will say that there are different end goals with that.
True.
For example, like Mimeoplasm deck.
Yeah.
Want stuff in the grave because then Mimeoplasm itself gets better.
Yeah.
You know, or if you're running like decks that have like heavy grave play, where you can cast things from grave, like a Muldrotha deck. Like a Muldrotha self-mill will be really good because then you can just like target things, bring them back from grave at your turn, and then have fun with it.
Yeah.
But then you could also have decks that want to mill your opponents because then you can take stuff from their graves. Mm-hmm. I mean, mill is a bit more, definitely more limited than tokens, but there's still quite a bit you can do with it.
For sure, yeah. I guess I made more of you can do a lot with it, but you have to be focused on mill.
Like, you have to be committed.
With tokens, you can focus on getting creatures out, or you can focus on making copies of other creatures. There's a lot of different things you can deal with, but with mill, your whole goal is to get their library into the graveyard, and you're already at a disadvantage, right? Because everybody starts with 40 life and 199 cards, right?
Yeah.
So 99 cards, you're basically making it a handicap for yourself.
Yeah, because you're trying to go for that higher target rather than go for the life.
Right.
And
like there's a lot of, I think my favorite mill staples though, with Mesmeric Orb, even though it mills you, I like it. Every time they untap something, they're milling. Sphinx's Tutelage. Draw a card, make a mill, maybe even mill. Yeah. I've had somebody mill their whole deck with the Sphinx Tutelage.
You have a draw heavy deck. It's it's
crazy.
It's a no-brainer.
Like they got all their lands out, and I was like, cool, Sphinx Tutelage trigger, blue, done deal. And they were playing like a mono green. I was like a mono blue deck, and I was playing green blue white, and I was feeling it. So yeah, like there's that. There's Consuming Aberration.
Yeah.
Every time you cast a spell, they're milling until they hit a land, right?
Yeah.
Like that kills them. Mind Crank. There's so many infinite combos inside mill too.
Oh yeah.
Like tokens, you can go infinite with tokens. There's a couple of good ones. You might see them on the channel. You might not. We don't know. But with mill, Mind Crank and Sir Conrad, Mind Crank and Duskmantle Guild Mage, Mind Crank and insert card here. Like,
yep.
It just like it works, and it works because every time they lose life, they're milling cards. So now you're hitting both targets. Now you're hitting that 40 life while actually working down that 99, and then you're able to kind of work both into it. So I don't know. I like them a lot. Any mill staples that you could think of?
I mean, I think those are some of the better ones. I mean, Traumatize.
Traumatize, yeah.
Traumatize is a big one. Fleet Swallower.
Yeah.
Is another really, really good one. You put a Helm of the Host on Fleet Swallower, and then
you make them upset with you
or
for
a
the
Blade
rest
of
of their
Selves on Fleet Swallower. Yeah.
Oh, Blade of Selves. We didn't think about that for the token deck.
Yeah.
Myriad tokens. Yeah.
And you just swing in with a Fleet Swallower and just watch them cry.
Exactly. That's usually what happens in mill.
But there's some pretty good ones. With that,
Startled Awake is
Startled
one
Awake.
that got me into Magic. Watching people play Startled Awake and then like seeing the 13 cards and then more and more and then bringing it back and a lot of fun. Let's talk colors. Mill is
it's blue black.
Yeah, that's your main, but you have green blue black, right? With Mimeoplasm, Muldrotha.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right.
Other than that, like you have mono blue that works.
You can do a mono blue mill pretty well.
Persistent Petitioners is a thing that people love doing. Green black. I've seen green black blue. I've seen black blue white mill.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was the Esper of like they basically make you they kind of make you windfall a little bit, and then they keep doing that from the top. So it's a similar build as like what I was talking about before. I've seen green blue mill, kind of like with the Lannis, making them draw their cards a lot, and you're drawing your own cards. There's a lot of like green black is another one where you're milling yourself, and you're doing stuff like I think it's Millipede Infestation. It's a newer card. It says beginning of upkeep, you mill a card. If you mill a creature, make a 1/1 insect.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. Oh, Grist. Grist is one that we love to see. Again, tokens. It's a mill,
and that's both a best worlds kind of situation.
Yeah, mill
and
tokens
and mill.
So you definitely get upset. It's it just you don't win that one. But yeah, some commanders that we can look at. We already talked about most of them. Yeah. Eldrotha, Anawan, Bruvok. I like that name.
That is an interesting name.
I'm gonna name my first son Bruvok.
Please don't.
No, I won't. My wife would kill me. Phoenix is one.
Name your kid Phoenix.
Oh, name a Phoenix.
There you go.
I was thinking Xenagos, but
he might revel a little too much.
A little bit. He might be a reveler.
Little revel.
Yeah, but yeah.
How about I feel like that's some pretty good names. Tigum. Wink wink. Tigum is a pretty good one. More of like a self mill, at least in that aspect, but yeah.
Yeah, Tassiger. I ran a Tassiger deck for the longest time, and then I replaced him with Muldrotha, and then I replaced him with Tassiger. It was fun. It was all right. But yeah, when it comes to mill, you can go a lot of different ways. You can have a lot of fun with it. Your friends may not be your friends afterwards.
It's kind of like playing the Magic version of Monopoly.
Yeah, it's definitely the Magic version of Monopoly. Either you have all the cards, or they have all the cards. That's kind of what happens. Let's talk about like artifacts and enchantments, though. Okay. Right? One or the other, like the card type specific decks that we see. Like there's Tuvasa, there's Go Shintai with the shrines. There's tons of different like artifact builds, like Breya and all these guys that like have made artifacts artifacts have always been super popular, right? But basically the build that you're looking for that deck, you're just filling it with that card type. You're filling it with artifacts, you're filling it with enchantments. I mean, this is just the card type heavy deck where you're just like Planeswalkers could be the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like you fill that deck with as many of those as you can and make those utility artifacts work for you.
And with that too, like also the cards that don't per se fit that type still benefit you in some way.
Right.
Like for example, with a Planeswalker deck, you're gonna want a Chain Veil.
Right.
You know, you're gonna want something like that. You're gonna want instant sorceries like I'm blanking on them right now, but the ones from I believe it was Oath of Gatewatch. Where you can get Planeswalkers off the top of your library.
Yeah. You can even use the enchantments, the oaths. You know, the Oath of Nissa, stuff like that, where they may not fit a Planeswalker deck because they're not Planeswalkers, but they fit because
they're
they
definitely
get you.
with the theme.
Yeah.
With artifacts and enchantments too, I definitely feel like of the three we've talked about, this is the one that could go any direction.
Yeah.
Like an artifact deck could mean something like a Joyra cantrips deck where you're just spitting things out, but it also could be something like a Blades deck.
Yeah.
Where you want to just like Voltron the heck out of one commander or one creature and just put all the different blades on and put all the different equipment that you can put on
equipments. Yeah, I mean, like I talked about a little bit earlier, but my Urza deck of just putting out little artifacts to make those constructs at the end of combat or end of turn, and then making these 12/12 Urza constructs out of nowhere, and then trying to hit your opponents with 36/36 every time you turn around. But yeah, they those cards, like, let's talk about those cards specifically, though. Those cards that help you that may not fit into it exactly. Like, one that works for most artifacts deck is Psy Master Thopterist.
Yep.
Whenever you cast an artifact, you make a 1/1 Thopter, get to be able to put that in there, and you're making more artifacts while having one creature that is an artifact. There's, like, the new set, Brothers War and Phyrexia. Like,
oh, yeah.
They have tons of artifacts.
Quite a few that fit that.
Yeah, like tons of artifacts, tons of stuff like that.
Going back to, like, say as far back as Kaladesh, like Mechanized Production.
Yeah.
Like, that's a win con in my artifact deck, because the whole theme of that deck is that it's a Thopter factory.
Right. What's that one card where it's like mirrors or where it has two different options It's an enchantment that says if you have 14 artifacts in your graveyard, you win the game. Mirrodin Besieged.
Aha.
And so gain cards like that. Sorry, guys. If you can't tell, we have people behind the camera.
If you can't tell, we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. We are just completely winging this, guys. But yeah, like something like that where you want artifacts in the grave. It's an enchantment, but it works.
And it definitely fuels what you're trying to go for.
Exactly.
Because like it itself is not an artifact.
Yeah.
But it's related to artifacts and definitely propels you forward and gives you that win con.
Yeah.
You know, like you're going to like enchantments, cards that reduce the cost of enchantment spells or give you benefit when you cast enchantments, such as, hey, you cast an enchantment, gain a life.
Yeah, Mesa Enchantment, Enchantress. Whenever you cast it, draw a card.
Yeah.
Whenever you cast a Sigil of Empty Throne, when you cast it, make a 4/4 Angel. That's when you want to build optimal decks. You want to go off of the cast triggers.
Oh,
because nobody can stop the cast trigger itself. So you can cast it and still get stuff. There's also ETB triggers. And
ETBs are good.
That's a whole nother deck type that we can get into on another episode of just ETBs and LTBs.
Oh, yeah.
Death triggers, all these other kind of stuff that I'm more than happy to talk about. But when we're looking at these builds, we probably want to focus on cost reduction. That's a big thing.
Cost reduction's a big one.
Because you have these big artifacts that can win you the game, but you need to be able to cast them.
I mean, that in of itself is a deck type. Just playing affinity for artifacts.
Yeah.
And just, or cantrips. Like I said, Joyride cantrips.
Right.
Just like all of these are low cost as it is, and then I've got mana reducers on top of that. I'm just gonna spit out artifacts and draw cards.
Yeah, and like you said
until
earlier,
my whole deck is on the table.
Artifacts and enchantments can go these deck types can go anywhere and everywhere.
Ways.
You can make tons of tokens. You can mill. You can do this.
You can do enchantment Voltron. You can do enchantment.
Oh my gosh, enchantment Voltron.
You could do shrines.
Yeah, shrines.
I mean,
I love my Tatsunari deck where I get a little Kimi with some mutate and get more Kimis and draining game with that. It's a lot of fun. Let's talk about the commander colors. There's black, blue, white. There's black, blue, red, mono blue. I've seen a colorless build of artifacts.
Yeah, I mean that one can be a bit more limiting.
Yeah.
Specifically because you don't have access to kind of counter spells or draw spells necessarily.
Yeah, it's been picking up, especially. We haven't even talked about Mardu. Mardu vehicles.
Yeah. Back when those were a thing. Those were a big thing.
A lot of that pickup recently, where there's little Jan Jensen from Baldur's Gate. I have a Jan Jensen deck where he has haste. You could sack a non-creature artifact and make 2 1/1 constructs. If you sack a creature, artifact creature, you make 2 treasure tokens. So they constantly it feels himself, and if you can untap them, it's harder to do untap in Mardu, but it's doable.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And there's the 4-color Brea colors that you could throw out there with artifacts. 5-color artifacts is a thing too. People love that. When we get into the commander aspects, there's a ton.
Oh goodness.
No,
I mean that's what I was gonna say. Is that's the thing with artifacts is you can really build it any number of ways. Boros, again, Boros equipment.
Yeah.
I mean you can do mono red equipment with someone like Godo, Warlord Bandit. I mean, there are just...
that's an infinite combo right there.
There are just so many different ways you can go with artifacts.
Have you ever been Godod? Have you ever been Godod with the Helm of the Host?
I've never been Godod with Helm of the Host, no.
Dude,
that sounds disgusting, and I want to do it.
One of the most annoying... infinite combats is one thing, but infinite Godos, come on. Yeah,
But, I mean, and then with enchantment colors, again, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I mean... you could do mono white enchantments and do a token / life gain theme. You can do
green white enchantments. It's pretty good.
Green white's pretty good.
Bants.
I use that actually in my humans deck. There's quite a bit of green white enchantment play.
Yeah,
because it's just when you have Siona.
Siona,
right? Yeah. Whenever you cast I believe it's a aura, you can then create a 1/1, and then you can just
attach it to it.
Equip.
Yeah,
there you go.
And that's another infinite combo with Shield by Faith. You probably see that later on. But yeah, green white with Sithis. Sithis was one of the most #1 commanders that came out within the last couple of years.
Yeah,
everybody loves her.
I mean, my personal favorite, blue white black Zur.
Blue white black Zur. So auras.
Auras.
Interesting.
I mean, there are other things in that deck. Like a lot of like, I do have, for example, a lot of like the Theros enchantment creatures that you can then bestow.
Yeah, and that's another thing we didn't even talk about. When you're building stuff like this, including those creatures, those like heavy artifact creatures, heavy enchantment creatures, there's so many that work in this where you're casting a creature and you're getting the benefit of maybe making another creature or drawing cards.
Because it fills both slots, it triggers more than one thing and serves more than one purpose.
Exactly. And this goes back to what we were talking about originally too, of numbers. Like, you don't have to worry about enchantments and creatures and artifacts like
if they're the same thing.
Exactly. Don't have to worry about it if they're the same, right?
Modern solutions, my friend.
Tatsunari is one of my favorites, and I've said her name a lot, and I'm not going to talk too much about it, but Layla enchantments is a lot of fun. Building a pillow for it with a Layla is a lot of fun. It makes a game go for like 8 hours though. But yeah, like Tatsunari, Tavasa.
Tavasa is a good one.
There's somebody that plays a Tuvasa deck that maybe you guys will see him later on, but he plays it and he always like, oh, this is a hug deck. It's all fun. Like, I don't really ever do anything. I'm like, okay, cool. And every time he plays it, Tuvasa gets to like a 25-25 and just smacks me. I don't know. Tavasa, you know who you are, and I hate you. But yeah, let's move on to some other, as we kind of wrap up. We're just going to touch on these. Again, if you guys want us to see more, like more deck types, more different color combinations, go ahead and leave a comment below. And we're going to talk about control a little bit, talk about aggro a little bit, and then we're going to wrap up with that. So control. Like, there's so many ways that you could control the game. So many ways. You could stacks, you could counter, you can exile, discarding.
Mill's a form of control.
Yeah, continuous board wipes like Childs of Alara, like we talked about. You can't undo mill most of the time.
I was going to say, I mean, it's like, I don't really have to worry about what you're playing if you have nothing to play.
Right. I love when I can mill somebody and then exile their graveyard, like, right afterwards.
Which is the worst.
It is the worst.
That is the worst feeling.
Soul, any of those lanterns that you're just like, bye.
That Eater of the Dead combo.
Yeah.
Or Eater of the Dead? Yeah. Eater of the Dead combo.
It's annoying, but it works. It's effective.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, commonly, control is, like, spell heavy.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking at getting those, like, counter spells, getting those control, like, exiling, board wipes, stuff like that, where you're not too worried about your permanents.
Yeah, and, like, card advantage. Yeah. Like, also, I mean, like, a sort of different form of control is, like, making people discard stuff.
Yeah.
Playing, like, a more black-heavy deck where you're just, like, what, Thought Seizing?
Thought Seizing, Duressing.
Duress
is a little bit less, but yeah, like, where you're making everybody discard Tiny Bones. What is that? Turgid. Turgid is a super popular commander. Mono black, you're getting them to discard, then you're taking whatever they discard and putting it onto your side. I love playing my Turgid deck every once in a while, but I've gotten people very upset with it. As you will in any control deck, though. That's the point. You're trying to 100%. Control the deck.
Like, you're trying to make it to where the game is going your way. Your opponents can't do what they want to do.
Most popular control, I would say, is Azorius, though. Blue-white.
Oh.
Like, getting like, counters, getting, like, the exile of blue-white, getting rid of, like, we were talking about removal earlier. Yeah. Lockdowns. Do you remember Detain?
Yes.
Like, Detain used to be this big thing.
I run a lot of that in my Brago deck.
Exactly.
ETB, Detain stuff.
That's another thing, like, the blinking control.
Yeah.
Like, just, that way you can instantly respond to stuff, like Rune.
Yeah.
When people play Rune decks against me, I always get worried because I feel like they're just going to blink their whole board like that, and I'm never going to be able to do anything to them. But I feel like blue-white is, like, usually that go-to.
Blue-white's usually a really good one. Yeah. A very unorthodox one that I did was a Teamer one.
Teamer, okay.
It was a Teamer. It was, like, half Teamer, like, creature-heavy deck, but then it was also blue counter spells, blue bounce spells, red, like, little ping damage here and there, like shocks, lightning bolts, just because, I mean, if you're controlling the board state in that sense of getting their things out of the way so that you can then do what you want to do, that's still control.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if control is more of like a sub-theme than the whole theme.
Okay. I like that. That's something, I'm never successful with Teamer decks. Like, I bought the Tyranid deck, and I tried that out, and it just wasn't fun for me. I tried playing Yasova Dragonclaw, and, like, I was stealing everybody's creatures, making Yasova super big. Just wasn't fun for me. Again, to each their own. Everybody has their own play style, but
Yeah.
Teamer has never really been successful for me. I might try that Teamer control, though. I might like that. I like the red-blue control. Is it control? It can be really fun.
Izzy control's very chaotic, very fun.
Vadric is like my go-to control deck where I could just counter everything you do no matter what. But again, we're running a little short on time. Tasha is a new one, black-blue, where you're getting rid of what they're doing and you're taking it and trying to put it on your side of the field. Grand Arbiter Augustin is an annoying one.
Very annoying.
Where you're just making everybody else cost more and your stuff costs less and everybody hates you. You just get targeted.
And it's where that kind of gets into that territory of, again, be careful because then your friends may not want to play with you again.
Yeah. Control can be borderline, though. Because, like, if you're playing a decent control and you're kind of playing the kingmaker of where you're not controlling everybody, but you're like, oh, hey, listen, I'm going to have to counter this. The board will literally rally with you and be like, that's our guy.
And to be fair, make sure that you're the counter player who knows what to target.
Yes.
Like,
oh, my gosh.
I remember playing against somebody in a card shop where they just countered things that were like, you're picking that?
Yeah.
It's like, just because he had counter spells. It's like, that's a little mean. Like, I'm just trying to ramp here, and you're going to counter that?
Oh, if somebody counters my Cultivate or any one of those, they die. Like, that is the instant, go after that.
You know, it's just like, hey, I'm going to cast Soul Ring, counter. There are so many better opportunities that you could use that.
Vandal Blast
You're not
Soul
saving
Ring.
It for, like, late game.
Vandal Blast a Soul Ring and see what I do to you. I will.
And
you'll be my eternal enemy.
And that's the thing. Play control.
Yeah.
But, like, make sure you're prioritizing, like, important targets. Because, like, the one thing you never want to do is waste a counterspell.
Right. Proper threat
even
assessment.
even if you have a bunch of them. Like, you want to make sure that you are, you know, holding them back for the real threats.
Yeah. Like, if somebody's going to Psych Rift, like, that's what you want.
That's probably a moment to counterspell.
But if somebody's going to, play Mystic Elf or whatever that card is, I think that's what it's called. Elfish Mystic, that's what it is. Yeah. Mystic Elf is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. I haven't played that in years. Anyways.
Never played it.
Yeah. But yeah, like, control could be a bunch of different things. Know your targets. Know what kind of control you want to play. Board wiping.
Yeah.
Discarding, like we talked about. There's tons of different ways to control the game. Well, that's about it for us for today. If you'd like to see more of our content when it comes to deck types or something, go ahead and leave a comment below. And thank you guys for tuning in to the end. Again, like I said at the beginning, we're actually going to be giving away these dice right here. If you guys can like the content, like the video, subscribe to our channel, and then leave a comment below, that will enter you into the chance to win one of these dice here. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and that's all from us at Velvet Games. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed videos like this, you should like and subscribe. Maybe even hit that bell so you can see some more stuff in the future. We're going to be here for it.
If you want to hang out with us and other nerds, even send us some of your dank memes, click the link below to join our Discord. It's totally free.
And if you want to support the channel further, you can check the description for links to the Patreon, where there you can access higher levels of Discord, other channels, other types of geekdom, and any sort of behind-the-scenes content and even prototype merch in the future.
If you're still watching, thank you so much. We appreciate it. You help make this dream a reality. Have a great week, and we hope to see you again real soon. Real soon.